fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From Arbitration. Wednesday night edition late. Had an episode Beyond the Satchel. If y'all listen to them, I was on there tonight. We just got finished. It's late, but I'm going to do an episode because I said I would. Now, tomorrow I'll have the Wolf on, right? James Henry will be on tomorrow, and we'll end this thing out. We'll not have an episode next week. I'll be on vacation, right? So I'm going to talk about just a few things. I'm telling you, it's not going to be long tonight, okay? I'm telling you that. I know y'all make fun of me because of that, but it's not going to be long. The most important thing, I'm going to do it first, the most important thing. And we talk about contract, management, non-compliance. This is the most important thing going right now. David Groskopf has his Facebook page back, and so I'm going to announce it for you so that y'all can get back on with my man David Groskopf and reconnect with him on Facebook. He messaged me, well, he called me today. We talk a lot, but he said, dude, I finally got my Facebook page back. If y'all know what happened with him, he got his Facebook page hijacked from somebody in Illinois. He was able to track the number. It's an Illinois number. And so he's like, I may call it, go there and whip somebody's ass because they hijacked my man's Facebook page. And if you remember, he was on there and it was talking about his uncle was passing. I had all these things to sell and people were buying it. You know, they were buying it because, you wouldn't think David would put something out there like that, but it got hijacked from somebody in Illinois. So he's looking for you, whoever hijacked his shit. And so David Groskopf is back on. It's David J. Groskopf Jr. with a period after Jr. Okay? David J. Groskopf Jr. period. You got to put the period in there. It won't be him. David J. Groskopf Jr. period. All right? So that's the most important thing going right now. David got his Facebook page back, and so we're all celebrating that. All right? Got a couple of meetings that I'm going to talk about. Concerned Letter Carriers Meet and Greet Fundraiser. It's going to be Long Island, New York. All right? Now you're going to have the Wolf, James Henry, myself, John Cruz, Orlando Gonzalez. He's going to be the next business agent for Region 15. He'll be there. Of course, John Cruz is running for national trustee. And we'll be in Long Island, New York, Sunday, June 7th. Sunday, June 7th, 2026, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And they say that they're going to make it a Lions Den. We're going to turn that into a Lions event. Okay, so Long Island, New York, Huntington Moose Lodge. Long Island, New York, Huntington Moose Lodge, 631 Pulaski Road, Green Lawn, New York, 11740. Sunday, June 7th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Y'all make sure y'all come and see us. I'm going to talk about the other one with Miss Dana Chambliss, who's going to be the next business agent, Region 8. That's the CLC fundraiser event there. It's going to be at Cookeville Community Center, 240 Carlin Drive, Cookeville, Tennessee. And that's going to be Sunday, June 14th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And James will be there. I'll be there. Miss Dana will be there. Several others from the CLC will be there as well. That's going to be a huge event. $30 per person online, advance, or $40 per person at the door. And you get your tickets online. I'm not going to read that link because it's confusing, and it's got a QR code for you. If you go to concernedlettercarriers.com, you'll see that on there as well, okay? So that's going to be June 14th, Sunday. Time 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., Cookeville Community Center in Cookeville, Tennessee. That's going to be a CLC fundraiser as well. We're trying to raise as much money as possible because we're going to do a mailing, okay? And that's one of the things we're going to do for the CLC slate. And then some people are sending me some things today about somebody's. There's a video. I'm not going to talk about it until after nominations, and that way the handcuffs will be off of me. I've handcuffed myself from talking too much shit until after the convention, after nominations. All right, and I'm going to talk about this video people keep sending me. It's a dude running for president talking to another business agent who is a lackey, a Renfro lackey, and he's talking about the CLC slate. What is that? What is a slate? What is it? Both of them are on Renfro slate. What's so funny? Both of them like, what's slate? Need a slate? What's a slate? Both of them are on Renfro slate. Both of them are Orlando slate. But now all of a sudden, what's a slate? What is that? I'll address all of that after the convention, okay? After nominations, when I can take the handcuffs off myself and we're going to get in somebody's ass for being stupid. But anyway, yeah, the CLC got a slate of those that are like-minded, that are going to put the city letter carrier first and not the establishment. Now, you got the guy from Region 2 who was on this little video, who has supported Renfro over the city letter carrier and everything that he's done. When they talk about dismissing charges without an investigator, he agreed with that. Going against the charges against Renfro, he agreed with that. Was on another podcast talking about he doesn't believe there needs to be a change at the top. Now, if you don't need to believe there needs to be a change at the top with this disastrous motherfucker we have as president, something's wrong. But yeah, them two are on a video, comical. I'm looking at it like, what the fuck am I listening to? I'll address all that later, okay? I'm not going to get into that now. I've got some resolutions I'm going to read. I'm going to talk about something else first that some people that are in the know sent me. And then I'm going to talk about this grievance that somebody sent me that happened out of their station. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. But the changes that are coming, that they're hearing, that upper management is telling them. And I want y'all to listen, okay? Because you have the Postal Service addressing them. Unfortunately, you got our president talking about 4-day delivery, 10 hours a day. Talked about that the other day. And so we're doing their job for them. But here's what they're hearing. And this is what upper management is telling district down, okay? And the people that are in the know are reaching out to me. Now listen to these changes. This is what is being talked about. And then I asked my supervisor today, and he said that he's heard the same thing. So here's what's being talked about, okay, for the near future. This is management. Headquarter level managers would be increased. Headquarter level managers would be increased. Now that's substantial pay, okay? All areas would be done away with. All areas would be done away with. All postmasters would be done away with. All MCSOs and MPOs would be done away with. Station managers over multiple stations, post offices would have one supervisor under them. So you got station managers would be over multiple stations at post offices, would have one supervisor under them. So you'll have station managers over several different stations, one supervisor per station. All would answer to a DM-like position that answers directly to headquarters. Supervisors only handle discipline. Lead clerk handles tax and clock rings. Lead carriers would divide up routes and overtime as needed. Early outs for all EAS and all crafts. Management is preparing for the 4 days, 10-hour schedule as we speak. And it tells about where it was said. But yeah, that's what's coming down the pike. That's what upper management is telling different managers, and it's getting out to different people. But I asked my supervisor, and he said, yes, they are talking about that. I'll read that again. Headquarter level managers would be increased. All areas would be done away with. All postmasters would be done away with. All MCSOs and MPOs would be done away with. Station managers over multiple stations, post offices, and they would have one supervisor under them all. All would answer to a DM-like position that answers directly to headquarters. Supervisors only handle discipline. Lead clerks handle tax and clock rings. Lead carriers would divide up routes and overtime as needed. Early outs for all EAS and all crafts. Management is preparing for the 4 days, 10-hour schedule as we speak. And so that's the latest. Okay, that's the latest. Now, as with anything, take that with a grain of salt. But I have a very reliable source that tells me most of my shit. And they told me that today or yesterday, and then I talked to my supervisor today, and that's what he said. So you have a lot of changes. One of the big changes that I'm hearing is one of the things that will probably force us to arbitration is management, upper management, labor wants to redo Article 15. They do not like the DRT position, and they are trying to get rid of it. They want to do away with DRT position, the B team. They don't like precedent-setting language and trying to go to what looks like 3 steps. Okay, and you got 2 steps and then arbitration is kind of where it looks like they're wanting to go. And so we need to stand fast on that. Okay, we need to hold the line on that. The grievance procedure is written is fine. It's just broken because you have management that broke it. And so we need to hold the line on that. But that's another thing I'm hearing is that's one of the things that is going to force us to arbitration is that management wants to redo entirely Article 15 and the process and do away with the DRT and the B team. Okay, those are the same thing, but DRT, B team. And so, yes, that's kind of where we're at. So there's a lot of changes coming. The post office is going to look a lot different in the next year or two. Okay, and management's going to revamp themselves. Unfortunately, we have a president who is helping them with this 4-day work week, 10 hours a day. I say that it's going to do away with overtime, and we need change at the top to get us through this because you cannot have cowardice at the top right now, and unfortunately, we do. There's a lot of carriers called me today after my episode, called me yesterday as well about my episode, my idea. I said, hey, tell me if I'm wrong. A lot of them reached out saying, we don't think you're wrong. We just don't think you got into it enough. We think this, and it goes even deeper. And I said, hey, I agree with you. I agree with you. And so a lot of conversation about that, a lot of conversation about the movement. We talked a little bit about that on Beyond the Satchel, is that the movement that we talk about is something that they have never seen before in either side, Postal Service or this union. They've never seen a movement like this. It's a movement that is pro-carrier, okay? It is not pro-agent. It is pro-carrier. It is anti-status quo, anti-good old boy. And the ones who sided with Renfro are going to be gone. And that's the reason that you have to have a slate, because you have to have those that oppose the status quo, the good old boys, those that have sided with Renfro over the city letter carrier. And that has happened all too often. And so the city letter carriers have stood up. And that is what this movement is. It's nothing else. And so I'm happy to be a part of it. We talked about this, like I said, on Beyond the Satchel. I'm happy to be a part of it. You got a lot of different moving parts in this thing that got this thing going. I'm just happy to be a part of it, to see the change that we need, that the city letter carrier, which is me and you, has stood up, and we're going to take back over this union. We're not going to put in somebody who is pro-establishment. You're going to see the establishment get in bed with the establishment. It's already happening if you're paying attention on social media. You're having those running for position that you will see start cuddling up to the establishment, because you cannot change your colors. You cannot change your stripes. It is who you are. If you've been doing it for 13 years, it is very difficult to break away from that. And you're seeing it in real time right now. Those that are running for positions are going back, coddling the establishment because they're trying to get that vote. And they will be buried in this next election. We are not going to tolerate establishment status quo any longer. And you would have thought that you would have learned that in this last TA. That's the carriers standing the fuck up against the establishment, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, telling them to fuck off. And you just don't get it. You just don't get it. So we talked a lot about that. You can see the carriers educating the carriers, first time in history. You can see the carriers fighting for carriers, first time in history. You're seeing a lot of things that the carriers are taking it upon themselves to do. And it's the first time ever. It's the first time it's ever happened. And it will go down in history. And this movement will go down in history. The day that the city letter carriers stood up and took back over this union. And that's the movement. That's the movement. It's that simple. It's the carriers have stood up to the establishment. We already have the agent who's supposed to go against the Postal Service. They're not supposed to be with us. They protect us. We're in light blue. We're down here doing the work when we have our agent that's supposed to be protecting us from the employer. And so this movement is against the agent because you didn't do your job. And since you didn't do your job, we're coming to take your job. And that's going to happen in this next vote. So in a nutshell, that's the movement, is that the city letter carrier is sick and tired of being sick and tired and run over. Okay? Let me run some resolutions by you, and then we will jump off of here and go to bed. But here's a couple of resolutions that are going to come up. Resolution and amended transparency resolution, whereas the National Association of Letter Carriers is a democratic union whose strength depends upon informed participation by its members, and whereas branches submit resolutions and amendments to the National Convention on matters affecting the union and its members, and whereas many branches are unable to send delegates to the National Convention due to financial or logistical limitations, and whereas providing timely access to submitted resolutions and amendments would allow branches and members the opportunity to review, discuss, and debate these matters at regular branch meetings prior to the National Convention, and whereas allowing delegates to discuss proposed resolutions and amendments with their branch membership ahead of time ensures delegates vote in accordance with the informed backing and direction of their branch membership. Therefore, be it resolved that upon receipt and acceptance of resolutions and amendments submitted for the National Convention, the National Association of Letter Carriers shall make such resolutions and amendments available in real time on a dedicated page within the members-only portal, and be it further resolved that the purpose of such publication shall be to keep all branches informed, encourage discussion and debate among the membership prior to the National Convention, and allow delegates to cast votes reflecting the informed position and backing of their branch membership. And so that's one. Here's another. Resolution to amend the 204B program. Whereas the 204B position was originally intended as a temporary detail assignment to provide limited supervisory experience for city letter carriers, currently there is no restriction on how long a letter carrier can be a 204B, and whereas the continued and expanded use of the 204B position has led to the prolonged removal of carriers from the craft, contributing to staffing shortages and forced overtime for remaining carriers and division amongst fellow union members, and Whereas the use of 204B details can undermine the integrity of the bargaining unit by placing letter carriers in supervisory roles where they may be involved in the oversight and discipline of their fellow carriers, and whereas currently 204B assignments have little to no oversight on when they can be used, regardless of whether there is forced overtime to the carrier craft in that participating station, and whereas the presence of 204Bs may create conflicts of interest and negatively impact workplace morale and unity among members, and therefore be it resolved that the National Association of Letter Carriers shall take all appropriate steps to set a maximum amount of time that a letter carrier may be in a 204B position to be 90 days. And be it further resolved that the NELC shall work through collective bargaining, legislative efforts, and all other appropriate channels to ensure that supervisory duties are performed by permanent management personnel rather than bargaining unit employees, and that 204B carriers are not permitted to issue discipline to fellow letter carriers. And be it finally resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to the appropriate national officers, regional offices, and all affiliated branches for consideration and support. This resolution presented by Jamie Lukens, NELC Branch 897 President, Barberton, Norton, Ravenna, Canal, Fulton, and Wyndham. And so that's a very good one. A lot of traction on that one as well. And so there you have it. And I'll have some more tomorrow when I have James on. I'll read some more because I've got several more. But let's get into this discipline and I'll be done with it. You'll have a very short episode. Okay? Y'all don't have to listen to me too damn long. But somebody sent me this and I said I would discuss it. And so that's what I'm going to do. And these are management's contentions. Okay? This is the USPS Formal A Management Designee. Their contentions. Now, this is unauthorized overtime, okay? And I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to address it with some language and then a couple of cites for you that are really good. Was the union successful in proving that management violated any portion of any settlements of any portion of Article 15 by recording some or all overtime work by the agreement as unauthorized on the day cited in the agreements? The union has submitted 3996s, 1017Bs, and statements from carriers for the dates in question. Some carriers were approved for overtime in the morning prior to leaving for their routes, and some were not approved for any at all. All carriers cited called the supervisor late in the afternoon to inform him that they would not be done in the approved time. They were instructed to finish and that any unauthorized overtime would be dealt with at a later date. The comments provided by the carriers in the 1017Bs failed to justify any reasons as to why they couldn't complete their routes. While the 3996 is the opinion of the carrier as to why they may need overtime or assistance, management has the right per Article 3 to apply their opinions as to whether or not overtime or assistance is needed or necessary. This is a jointly utilized form, not an ultimatum from carriers stating that this is how much they're going to use, whether approved or not. This is how a majority of these carriers approach the use of this form. It's the opinion of the union if the 3996 is the carrier telling management this is how much time we will use, approved or not. If the overtime or assistance is not approved, carriers will call in for instruction, to which they are instructed to finish their routes. If they don't finish the routes, who will? Management cannot be saddled with multiple carriers returning undelivered mail late in the afternoon with no ability to efficiently and appropriately schedule the delivery of it. Management is required to document unauthorized overtime. Hence, closing supervisors will require comments from carriers incurring unauthorized overtime upon their return to the office and record it on the 1017B. This is a requirement. The union included a statement from a supervisor that states he's following instructions or orders to comply with the 1017B requirement, I ask, what's the issue? That is the requirement. It's management's opinion that they are utilizing the Form 1017B appropriately and correctly and will continue to do so as required. Therefore, I'm denying this grievance in whole. So we have an issue of the carriers using overtime. They call in, tell the supervisor that they need the overtime. What do they want to do, which is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get instruction. Hey, I requested overtime. You denied it. I'm going to need the overtime. Or I didn't request any at all. I have no street standard. And so I go out on the street. Something's happened. And I'm going to call back and say, hey, I wasn't going to need overtime initially, but I'm going to need about 20 minutes because of whatever. Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to keep delivering, or do you want me to bring the mail back? I want you to keep delivering. That's exactly what I read to you there. They even said it twice. Said that the carriers were told to keep delivering when they call back, and then again, they call back, and our instruction is to keep delivering. Okay? So, we've got a couple of things for you when that happens. You're going to get Handbook F401. Handbook F401. All right? When this happens. Handbook F401. 2. Unauthorized overtime. This is going to be on page 41. Unauthorized overtime. Postal Service payroll policy requires time worked in excess of 8 hours in a service day or 40 hours in a service week to be paid at an overtime rate to eligible employees. Unauthorized overtime occurs when an employee's clock time exceeds 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week without prior authorization from a supervisor. Now, that does not say without prior authorization in the morning or on a 3996. It does not say that. It says unauthorized overtime occurs when an employee's clock time exceeds 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week without prior authorization from a supervisor. So if I call back before my 8 hours is up and I say, hey, look, I'm going to need this, and they say it's authorized or it's approved, then that falls under this, right? It says unauthorized overtime occurs when an employee's clock time exceeds 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week without prior authorization from a supervisor. Again, it does not say in the morning or on a 3996, okay? Remember that. That's Handbook F401, page 41. Here's the most important thing. It's M document 326, 00326. And this is what you're going to need. And I got some sites for you. M00326. It says in part, a review of the material submitted at the 4-step level indicates that the grievance did inform management of their inability to complete their routes in 8 hours. Further, it was demonstrated that they were ordered by management to complete the routes. Although there was no expressed authorization to complete the delivery of the mail on an overtime basis, the permission would be inherent in the authorization to continue delivery after notification that the grievance were unable to complete the routes. Therefore, the grievance shall be awarded overtime for the exact amount of time worked on April 7th. I'll read that again. A review of the material submitted at the 4-step level indicates that the grievance did inform management of their inability to complete their routes in 8 hours. Furthermore, it was demonstrated that they were ordered by management to complete the routes. Although there was no expressed authorization to complete the delivery of the mail on an overtime basis, the permission would be inherent in the authorization to continue delivery after notification that the grievance were unable to complete the routes. I've got 2 sites for you that are going to help you as well. One is Helburn. It's arbitrator Helburn, Helburn. It's 21716. C 21716. Discussion. For reasons noted below, the grievance is sustained in part and denied in part, with the removal reduced to a suspension. The Postal Service should not have charged Gillespie with the use of unauthorized overtime. The relevant facts are not in dispute. Between 2 to 2:30 on January 28th, the grievant called Russo from the street. This was before the 3 p.m. deadline then in effect for such calls. Gillespie had not asked for overtime that morning. That goes with that FO401, right? Gillespie had not asked for overtime that morning, but when he called, he asked for 20 to 30 minutes of overtime to complete his route. Russo responded that he would note the request without approval and that the grievance should go with it. In other words, he should finish the route. It is not necessary to consider whether or not Gillespie had a right to assume that the overtime had been approved, even though such an assumption arguably would have been justifiable. The absurdity of Russo's instruction can be seen in the explanation below. In essence, Gillespie had two courses of action. He chose to complete the route, which is one course, and was charged with unauthorized use of overtime. Alternatively, Gillespie could have returned to the station with his 8-hour tour. Had he done so, he was in danger of being charged with a violation of Russo's order to go with it and with curtailment of additional mail. In order for the violation of a rule to provide just cause for discipline, the rule must be reasonable. The agreement was given two choices, either of which could have resulted in discipline. A rule or directive from a supervisor that puts an employee in an unavoidable precarious position can hardly be considered reasonable or a justifiable basis for discipline. Therefore, the charge of unauthorized use of overtime fails the test of just cause. And that's a beautiful decision because we always say that we're in a catch-22. We're damned if we do and damned if we don't. This arbitrator, he spells it out for us. The above analysis is consistent with the authorities in the record. A Step 4 resolution, the one that I just read to you, case number there, states that the Postal Service understanding that authorization to continue delivery once a carrier has informed management of the need for overtime constitutes inherent authorization for the request. That is exactly what happened in Gillespie's case. Also of particular relevance is the award of arbitrator Carl Lang III. The relevant facts of that case parallel those of the case at bar. The grievance was told to complete his route when he called from the street, then was removed in part due to alleged unauthorized use of overtime. In sustaining the grievance, arbitrator Lang referred to the above Step 4 resolution, the one that I read to you. Similarly, in case there, the grievant called and said that he would need overtime to complete the route. The supervisor said to complete the route and did not mention discipline. Arbitrator Robert Williams found that in light of the facts, the supervisor could not show that overtime had been prohibited. In truth, there are several analytical roads that lead to the same destination in Gillespie's case. Despite his past record, the charge of unauthorized use of overtime was unjustified and cannot be allowed to stand. So that's a fantastic case for what you're dealing with there. Here's another one, Saltzman. This is a very good one as well. Saltzman, S-A-L-T-Z-M-A-N. It's C31554. 31554, and it says in part, Supervisor Shalana Chicot testified that grievant telephoned her to report that he would not be able to return on time and that she instructed him to complete his route. Now that's exactly what I read to you in that manager's contentions that we just talked about. Testified that the grievant telephoned her to report that he would not be able to return on time and that she instructed him to complete his route. For this reason, grievant did not fail to follow instructions, as Supervisor Coe had revised her previous instructions by instructing grievant by telephone to complete his route. Now that is absolutely beautiful language, because they're going to say you failed to follow instructions. I told you to get back in 8. Denied your overtime, told you to get back in 8. You failed to follow instructions. Listen to what this arbitrator said. Chicot testified that grievant telephoned her to report that he would not be able to return on time and that she instructed him to complete his route. That's what we're dealing with today on this one here. For this reason, grievant did not fail to follow instructions, as Supervisor Chicot had revised her previous instructions by instructing grievant by telephone to complete his route. In the Step 4 precedent-setting decision dated October 2nd, 1972, which is the one I just read to you, Daniel Dockery, Labor Relations Division, to Mr. Antonio Huerta, or Assistant Secretary Treasurer, National Association of Letter Carriers, regarding Paul Dean and Fred Dens. Offer support to absolve grievant of the charge of improper conduct, failure to follow instructions on when he returned to the post office as stated in pertinent part. A review of the material submitted at the 4-step level indicates that the grievance did inform management of their inability to complete their routes in 8 hours. Further, it was demonstrated that they were ordered by management to complete their routes. Although there was no expressed authorization to complete the delivery of the mail on an overtime basis, the permission would be inherent in the authorization to continue delivery after notification that the grievance were unable to complete the routes. That's the step 4 I just read to you. Management contends that its projections for the time to complete grievance route should be relied upon for the amount of time required to complete grievance route. The projections, okay? Remember that, because we're going to come back to another step 4 that I talk about all the time. He goes on to state on the next page, the union introduced a step 4 decision dated 9/6/11 between Fred Rolando and Alan Moore, which states in part, the office efficiency tool used in the Greater Indiana District or any similar time projection system tool will not be used as the sole determinant for establishing office or street time projections. Accordingly, the resulting projections will not constitute the sole basis for corrective action. Projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload. And that's the reason we go over these step 4s over and over and over again. Like I always say, do you want to be good or do you want to be great? When things come up, you think of step 4s immediately. That's that one. That's 1769 right there. That's 00844. That whatever. Do you think of those things because that you've listened to it enough or you studied it enough? Do you want to be good or do you want to be great? I want you to be great. I want you to be great. So we talk about those all the time, right? Goes on, the arbitrator does not know whether the grievance performance is satisfactory or unsatisfactory, and that is not management's charge against the grievant. The arbitrator is satisfied that the grievant did call in to advise his supervisor that he required more time and he was instructed to complete his route. These instructions are his updated instructions from his supervisor, and therefore he did not fail to follow instructions. I'll read that again because that's absolutely beautiful. This is on page 14 of his decision. The arbitrator does not know whether the grievance performance is satisfactory or unsatisfactory, and that is not management's charge against the grievant. The arbitrator, because you always talk about the charge. You always talk about the charge. Whatever's on that piece of paper, that's the charge. They always want to add different things later on. The charge is the charge. Whatever's on that charge, that's what we're going forward with. That's what he says. He says, the arbitrator does not know whether the grievance performance is satisfactory or unsatisfactory, and that is not management's charge against the grievant. The arbitrator is satisfied that grievant did call in to advise his supervisor that he required more time, and he was instructed to complete his route. These instructions are his updated instructions from his supervisor, and therefore he did not fail to follow instructions. That's another great decision. Those will help you. Okay, you got your step 4, F41. Make sure you put that in there. That's good language for us to help us. You'll get the 1017B log. Make sure that management instructed or informed the carriers that they are being placed on the 1017B log. If they were not, I've got some sites for you for that. If they didn't notify the carriers that they were being placed on the 1017B log. It's a cumulative log. Okay, it's a cumulative log. Those things, they're supposed to have several entries and then they're going to come after you. If you see that your carrier is being placed on the 1017B log, it's a grievance if they're not notified. And we need to file on that, okay? And get that cleaned up. Get that off our record, all right? And so there you have it. There's your another episode, Wednesday, late night edition. All right? Tomorrow, the Wolf, James. I'm going to have some more resolutions for you. And then we're going to call it a week. Won't be on next week. I'm on vacation. I'm going to forget everything. I'm going to forget my name. I'm not going to do nothing, look at nothing. All right? So Hey, good times are coming though, man. I'm excited about the future of this union with us taking over. Again, the handcuffs are coming off after nominations. We're going to talk about some things. I got some things I want to talk about. And we're going to put some motherfuckers on blast. And because I just hate somebody that has just no fucking moral standing. I can't stand that shit. That has sold their fucking soul for a vote. And so I'm going to go after some people because I can. Right? All right. Hey, I love you. You have a good day tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow night with the Wolf, James Henry, okay? Y'all take care. Bye.